Clinical trials are one of the most important parts of the pharmaceutical industry. Before any medicine or vaccine reaches the market, it must go through multiple phases of clinical trials to prove that it is safe and effective for patients. But have you ever wondered who actually manages these trials behind the scenes? Many students entering clinical research hear terms like clinical data management, CRA, biostatistics, sponsor, and CRO, but often get confused about their roles and responsibilities. So, in this video, let's clearly understand who does what in clinical trials and how different professionals work together to bring a medicine from the laboratory to the patient. Let's start with clinical data management, also known as CDM. Clinical data management professionals are responsible for handling and maintaining all clinical trial data. During a clinical trial, huge amounts of patient information are collected, including medical history, laboratory reports, treatment responses, and side effects. CDM professionals ensure that this data is accurate, complete, consistent, and ready for analysis. Their main responsibilities include database design, data entry review, query management, data cleaning, validation checks, and maintaining data quality according to regulatory standards. They work with software systems such as Medidata Rave, Oracle Clinical, and RedCap. In simple words, CDM professionals make sure the clinical trial data is reliable and trustworthy. Now let's talk about CRA, which stands for Clinical Research Associate. A CRA mainly works at clinical trial sites such as hospitals and research centers. Their primary role is monitoring clinical trials and ensuring that the study is conducted according to the approved protocol, good clinical practice guidelines, and regulatory requirements. CRAs regularly visit trial sites, review patient records, verify informed consent forms, check source documents, and ensure patient safety throughout the study. They also communicate between the sponsor investigators and research sites. In simple terms, if CDM professionals manage the data, CRAs monitor the actual trial process happening at hospitals and clinical sites. Next comes the biostatistician. Biostatisticians are experts in statistics and data analysis. Their job is to analyze clinical trial data scientifically and determine whether the medicine is effective and safe. They help design the study methodology, calculate sample size, prepare statistical analysis plans, and interpret study results. After data collection is completed, biostatisticians use statistical tools and software like SAS or R to identify trends, compare treatment groups, and generate final study conclusions. Simply put, biostatisticians convert raw clinical trial data into meaningful scientific evidence. Now let's understand the difference between sponsors and CROs. A sponsor is usually a pharmaceutical company, biotechnology company, or healthcare organization that develops the drug and funds the clinical trial. The sponsor is responsible for the overall management, planning, financing, and regulatory submission of the study. For example, companies like Pfizer, Novartis, or Roche often act as sponsors for clinical trials. The sponsor designs the research strategy, selects study objectives, communicates with regulatory authorities, and ultimately submits the final data for drug approval. However, conducting global clinical trials requires large teams and specialized expertise. That is where CROs come into the picture. CRO stands for Contract Research Organization. CROs are companies hired by sponsors to manage specific parts of clinical trials or sometimes the entire study. CROs provide services such as clinical monitoring, data management, biostatistics, medical writing, regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance, and site management. Popular CROs include IQVIA, LabCorp Drug Development, and Icon PLC. In simple words, the sponsor owns the clinical trial, while the CRO helps execute and manage the work efficiently. All these professionals work together as one team. CRAs ensure trials are conducted properly at sites. CDM professionals maintain high quality data. Biostatisticians analyze results scientifically. Sponsors oversee the entire project, and CROs provide operational support. Without teamwork between these departments, no clinical trial can succeed. So, if you are planning a career in clinical research, understanding these roles is extremely important because each role requires different skills, qualifications, and career paths.
Subscribe to MedPharma Global on YouTube. Get the latest medical and pharmaceutical updates. Click the subscribe button and join our community.